Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, we have with us Glenn Mattson. As a founder and CEO of Mattson Enterprise, Inc., Glenn oversees an elite team of practice development consultants who provide solutions to agency leaders and salespeople facing the challenges of achieving extraordinary success in highly competitive and overcrowded markets. Glenn is an extremely sought-after keynote speaker, a gifted and respected platform trainer, coach, advisor, and author. My business, as he says, is helping his clients transform their business into a more efficient, productive, and profitable one. Glenn's background is that he helps his clients to build a successful business from successfully building and selling his first business while he was still an undergraduate student himself. Glenn was so effective at generating new revenues for his business that it dominated the marketplace and was later sold for a multiple of annual revenues. After college, Glenn joined the Sandler Training organization. His early career was nothing to brag about. He made mistakes, some costly, but using the same systems he uses with his clients today, he became the #1 Sandler associate both nationally and internationally. His personal success was a difficult, deliberate, and demanding journey. One of Glenn's philosophies is he believes once you are crystal clear on why you want something, finding how to do it won't be far behind. Being successful is not difficult. Thinking and acting successful is. So without further delay, welcome Glenn.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Glenn, before we normally get into, the whole questioning in the podcast and we're having this conversation, we like to give our guests an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. More on an emotional level, what type of person would you consider yourself to be? And why do you believe that you are where you are today?
Well, I think that if like most people, if you ask, or I hope that who they are on a personal level, I think that, a great balance is the golden rule, right? Which is to do unto others that you want to be done unto you. And that usually in the last 48 years has really been a good rule for me, among others, of course. So the golden rule is a real important one for us. And it does help dramatically make sure you're doing the right ethical thing. And instead of thinking what's right for you, if you're in their shoes, what's right for them. And that always works, I have found. But the flip side is, you asked me about what really made a difference in our lives, or my life. One of it is, among other things, one is literally having a very clear picture of what you're trying to build. And with that very clear picture is being incredibly dedicated to the actions, not the results, but the actions that you need to have to achieve those results. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, everyone wants everything quickly, and time does need to be part of success. So I think one of the great things was patience and grit, long-term dedication to doing the daily behaviors.
Amazing. I love it. So patience and grit, two characteristics that if you really want to be successful in whatever industry or area that you choose to facilitate for your life, you really have to recognize that it's a journey. It's not something that's just going to be explosion overnight, magic.
Yes. Yeah, you always have to ask yourself, what's more important, the destination or the journey?
Yeah.
And some people that are focused on the destination forget about the journey.
That's so true. So, Glenn, this show is about navigating the customer experience. And we have a lot of listeners who are different stages of their business. Some of them are actually in business for a long time. Some are starting a business. Some haven't started yet. They're still in concept phase. Now, customer experience is a very big part of business development. And as I can see, you have a lot of experience working with companies, small, medium, and large, helping them to improve their efficiency, improve their productivity. How do you believe customer experience supports all of those initiatives that you may do? And maybe you could cite some examples of why you think customer experience is important.
Well, if we look at it, just look at the pure numbers. And 80% of the people that don't go back to rebuy is because of a bad experience. So when we look at it, to me, your experience is what dictates repeatable sales. So your marketing and selling will get you the first one. Obviously, your selling and everything else will get you the second, third. But your client experience is really a true testament on your second, your third, your fourth. The ease of the sale afterwards, I believe, is a direct proportion. So if you look at it, 80% that decide not to go back, decide not to buy again, is due to poor experience. So we spend so much time and energy trying to get in front of the right people, and then we forget about how to keep them. And unfortunately, that's just as important as finding them.
Mm-hmm. True. That's so true. As a customer yourself, how do you feel about customer experience?
Well, the way I look at it is depending on what your expectations are, right? Because experience, if we really take a look at it, historically for most is they didn't get what they expected. And for more times than not, you have to ask yourself is, what are you explaining? What are you conveying? What's the message that you're giving? That what type of experience can they have? I mean, there are plenty out there that are very inexpensive products that kind of tell you you're going to buy cheap, but you're not going to get a great customer experience, meaning that you're saving on all fronts. So others that have more value, they have the ability to a heightened level of experience, so they feel that the money that they're investing is worth it. When people spend a premium or spend a dollar amount and they don't get the service that they're looking for, that is the number one reason that people leave, is they expected A and they got B.
I understand. Now, have you ever had a really bad customer experience?
I think we all have, yes. Yeah.
What would be the number one reason, and I want you to dig deep now, like on an emotional level, that you didn't return to that company, or you would have shared your bad experience with maybe your family or friends because it really connected with you so deeply, you're like, oh man, these people just don't understand, that I'm the customer and they're the service provider. Would you be able to share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think most people, even on my own accord, we want attention, we want value, we want to have respect in a lot of ways, we want resolution if something goes wrong, we want you to fix it, but we also want to make sure you can follow up. So when I look at even my own experiences with service, look, everyone makes mistakes. That's understandable. It's how you handle the mistakes that are critical.
True.
So just to take one that's in front of mine, it was a service issue that I had with a customer or client, and or I was a customer of someone else and was going through it. Instead of just flat out saying, look, we made a mistake, I apologize, this is what we can do to fix it. It was more of all the questions they were asking was trying to make it seem like I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And what was happening is they were reducing my level of or their perception of, at least mine, of respect. So more times than not, that usually what gets us is that respect. It's the integrity. It's the I did what you told me to do, yet it didn't work. I got that. I understand it. Let's just fix it. Let's not try to figure out why I'm the one to blame when it came out to be that I wasn't. So that piece was probably the one that left a bigger taste in my mouth. Which was they just didn't accept responsibility.
That is so true. And usually I found, and you're in training, so you can definitely share that with me as well.
Yes.
What I found is that when the company gets defensive and they're not willing to take responsibility for the actions that they've made, and they're not even recognizing that, listen, the reason why I'm standing here in the first place is because this person is in my business, patronizing my business. That's when you find the person who's actually providing the business to the company starts to get even more irate. And that's why I think the emotional needs is so important for you to satisfy with a client. Do you agree?
100%. Absolutely. Yep.
So as part of Sandler Training, I know you had mentioned earlier that you have a customer experience section in it that really focuses on customer service. Could you share with us a little bit about what that program is about and, how it helps the businesses? How does it actually tie back into the efficiency and the productivity?
Sure. When we take a look at efficiency and effectiveness. And, obviously that means that we have some type of process in place. Mm-hmm. And within that process, the sequential steps, but also there's competencies and skills that go in that are part of it. Now, once we have that done, how you get better at it becomes efficiencies and effectiveness in terms of results. So when we look at really our what we call our customer care program, it's not just external customers. I'm also going to turn around and say, how are you doing treating your internal customers? How are you doing treating your staff? Because your staff is a direct proportion to your to your client base. It's interesting when I have conversations with people. We talk about what a successful mindset is. And a successful mindset is someone who has responsibility or accountability or ownership. And people don't realize that 87% of your staff learns how to deal with the clients, how to deal with each other, and how to deal with stress based on how their boss does it. They're one person above them. So when we look at customer care, we have a 12-module program that we run people through, and a lot of it has to deal with understanding really a couple of things. One is, what is the backdrop of what's happening? Do you really have the skills of patience, listening, questioning skills? Are you getting emotionally involved? Are you getting defensive? Because if that happens, you cannot be a successful customer service person. So we look at really what do you need? And then we turn around and say, okay, now let's take a look at the process itself. How do you create the right attitude? How do you develop trust really quickly? How do you take control? How do you have ownership of the situation? And what's the best ways to follow up? And if there is, how do you identify opportunities for potentially future sales?
Amazing, amazing. I love it. Now, customer experience is so important. And I find in an organization, you'll have like the accounting department, you're going to have probably customer service, you're going to have sales, you're going to have marketing. But for some reason, some organizations believe that unless you're in customer service doesn't really apply to them. So I'm in finance, I'm in accounts, that doesn't really concern me because I deal with the figures, I deal with the numbers. Or I'm in IT, I'm on the back end, and I'm here to make sure that the systems are working, the processes are working. How do you change the mindset of those persons? Because that has been an ongoing challenge I've found over the years for many organizations, that when you mention customer service, people are brainwashed and they believe that, okay, if I'm not in customer service, then it doesn't really apply to me.
You know what? You hit it right on the head. It's true. They think customer service is a title, not necessarily a culture or an attitude. To give you two quick things, Harvard did a study that will come out and tell you that the majority of companies will fail in achieving their goals is because the individuals don't understand one of two things. One is, what is the direction of the company? What are the rules? The other is they don't know how to tie their personal into the company. So when you talk about salespeople desperately need their service. So to IT, that's usually one of the biggest areas that we have, people have issues with. Mm-hmm. So once you realize that everyone's role is to maximize or heighten the client experience, to give you an example, I'm down in Florida, and at a resort, nameless, it doesn't make a difference. I'm down in Tampa. It's a very well-known place, and the person who runs the hotel or owns it is well-known for his artwork inside and has to do with the ocean. It's a very well-known person. Now, we're at the resort. I am there for about 4 days down with my daughter, my wife, and my son. I'm in essence lost, and I'm looking for where to find the tennis courts. Simple, easy piece of cake. Mm-hmm. Walking down at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I asked a woman who clearly is leaving one building to go to another for something else, and she's kind of moving pretty fast. And I said, I don't mean to bug you, but can you at least point me in the right direction of where the tennis courts are? And she goes, absolutely. Are you running late for a lesson? I said, yes, I am. She goes, well, follow me then. And she walked me right to the tennis courts versus telling me where to go. And as we talked, she asked me all about my family, talked about why I was down, what my experience was. She's been part of that hotel for 25 years.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you, that hotel was a nice place. But what I'll remember about that hotel, and while I'll probably recommend people to go to the hotel, is because the feeling I got from her.
Wow. That's profound.
That was the home run.
Yeah.
So the mere fact that a woman who's been there for a while had no vested interest whatsoever in helping me find something, could have just pointed in the direction and just said, it's over there. Keep moving until you find it.
Mm-hmm.
But she walked me over. We had a great conversation. I had a connection to the hotel now through a person.
Amazing.
And it made an experience.
For sure. I had a similar experience recently too when I went to a hotel for an all-you-can-eat pizza night, and
yeah,
it was extremely disorganized because they had a book launch before and they didn't advise the persons that were coming for the all-you-can-eat pizza night that there was a book launch before, and so these events were merged together, and so those persons who didn't know of the book launch really came famished, completely ready to engage in pizza. Yeah. And the waitress that we got, she was extremely courteous, friendly. She really came down to our level, spoke with us candidly. I felt like she was a friend by the end of the evening. I knew her name, Adoma. I said, if I came back to this hotel, I would definitely come back and deal with her again. And you're right. It really boiled down to the feeling. The connection that she gave to us. And I don't know if everyone else at the location had the same experience, but I certainly left feeling much better than I did when I just arrived.
Which is important, right? I mean, if you look at most people want to be better, just most have never been trained on how to be better.
Yeah. That's interesting that you said that also, because I recently was at a supermarket and my girlfriend was in there with me, and she was by the fruits and vegetables section, and there was a young man packing out some sweet peppers in the frozen area, the fridge area. And he referred to her in a very informal term. I don't remember exactly what he said. And she said to him, you really shouldn't refer to your customers like that. You should say to them, excuse me, miss or sir or madam. And he said to her, no one has ever told me that before. And what was extremely like a BFO for me, a blinding flash of the obvious. How can you have someone working in your organization, even if they're just packing things in an area in the supermarket, and you have not even briefed them on how it is that they're to interact with your customers? Because you can't just hire people and put them to work. That's crazy.
Ooh. Well, most unfortunately don't realize who might touch who might touch a customer. So, one of the first things that we do actually in one of our modules is who is the front line? Receptionists, sales, billing, accounting, technical people, installers, believe it or not, delivery drivers, warehouse people, anyone that has any interaction with a client at any level. And for most, they don't realize that. So, why would you train a driver, for instance, that delivers things on customer care? The reality is they have some of the best ears and eyes that others don't have.
True.
Right? So who's really that person? And then you're right. How do we effectively communicate? How do we effectively understand our clients, our customers? And then you get into the piece of, now, what are the best questioning techniques? Because customer service is not about information you give. It's about the information that you can obtain. You need to understand what's going on in the world to provide a good customer service. So customer service is not talking. Customer service is exceptionally great ears and being very good at asking questions.
Yeah.
So you can get at the root of the problem.
True.
All right. And then you add the attitude piece to it, which is, unfortunately, a lot of times when you're dealing with customer service issues, people aren't the happiest at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with difficult people? How do you make sure that you don't get emotionally involved? How do you make sure that we don't get stuck in the emotional game, meaning that when they do something or say something, we take it personal, we get defensive, our brain shuts down, we panic, right? We start doing self-talk to ourselves. We forget everything that they say. For some people, they actually black out. And when they hang up the telephone, bam, everything they were supposed to say, could have said, should have said, pops in their head. Right? So it's not a problem of not knowing. The problem was in the heat of the battle, you panicked. So mentally, you left the battle.
True.
And after you got a chance to regain your composure, all the techniques came to you.
Yeah. So it's to get them. It definitely takes practice, as you said, especially if it's not a part of how you operate on a normal basis. So even in a personal relationship, when things get tough, how do you deal with difficult situations? Because that behavior will definitely transfer into your business interactions if you're not a master at dealing with stuff like that. That's so true.
It is. For a lot of people, they just forget probably one of the most important pieces of it, which is the beginning. So if you have someone who comes up to you or says they're not happy or they're looking for something, the first piece that we could take a look at is how to engage the individual. And when I talk about engagement means I understand you. Mm-hmm. So to understand means you need to hear. To hear, you need to listen. So when someone's talking, if you're talking, you're not listening. So what we like to do is get permission to hear what's happening, to get a permission to get a sense of, from the time that you ordered it to the time that you are right now, can you walk me through the timeline? Because naturally something didn't happen that was supposed to, and I want to get on the same page.
Right. So
it's just getting a chance to listen to what they say. So if someone comes in and complains to you, first and best thing to do is what's called active listening. You want to redefine what they say. So it sounds like what you're telling me, this is what happened, and this is where you are, and this is how you're feeling. You say yes. The second step for service, if you want to, is then just asking permission to get engaged. Are you okay, since you're on page 7? I'm still trying to figure out what happened. Do you mind if I ask you some baseline questions to get on the same page?
Yeah.
So you go from hearing to engagements to dig deeper, and then that's where your master questioning skills comes in.
And I also think
most people want it fixed too. They're just angry. That's all.
Yeah. And I also think too, Glenn, and just hearing you ask the questions a while ago, that it's also how you ask the questions. Because some of us can ask questions, but if our tone is not in the right place, the person that is listening will perceive that you are trying to not be very helpful.
Oh, tone is everything. It's like what your mommy always used to say right before you got in trouble. It's not what you said, it's how you said it.
True. That's a famous saying here as well, for sure.
Yeah. But you also have to understand people. So you're 100% right. Your tone is everything. If you're coming off from condescending, if you're coming off from it's not my problem, if you're coming off of it from wasn't my fault, all those mindsets create a very different tone. And when you're on the telephone, as you know, 87% of your ability to create rapport and trust is how you sound. And the piece of how you sound that's most important for everybody that's listening in is how fast you talk and how loud you are. So if you and I are talking and I'm irate, I'm going to speak a little faster. And if you speak really slow, you're irritating me. Right? Now, if I'm angry and I'm speaking slowly and you move really fast, my thought process is, you're just trying to get me off the telephone.
Mm-hmm. True.
So volume and rate of speed are the two most important components to create trust on the telephone.
Yes, I agree.
So you have to learn how to mirror and match, it's called. Just mimic or try to at the same speed, the same volume as the person you're talking to.
True. That is true.
Yeah.
All right. Now, can you share with us how you stay motivated every day?
It's interesting. Motivation, we only have about 6 things that really, for the most part. And what I found is for most of us, our goals create motivation. Motivation creates a sense of ownership, which is responsibility. Because when we do goals, one of the things that I've found for years and years and years is everyone may say they have a goals program. And some statistics, if you want, is 80% of the people walking planet Earth have no goals whatsoever. None. 16% of the people that walking planet Earth have an idea of what they want. 4% or less than 4% actually have goals, have them written down, and less than 1% really look at them. But where the numbers get crazy is the people that are at the 16% that just have an idea of what they want in life, they are 10 times more effective than those that don't have any idea.
Wow.
And the people that have their goals written, they're 3 times more effective than those that just have a concept. Now, they translate it into action, which is, now here's a staggering thing for what it's worth about motivation. People who have goals, they look at them every week, and they do their plan. They earn 9 times more than those that don't. So when we look at motivation, I think motivation is what are you trying to build and what are you willing to give up to get it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where we are, we're very clear on what we're trying to do here. We are trying to maximize the client experience by reducing the cost of sale. How do we give our clients what they want the fastest, easiest, most productive, most effective way possible? So we're never sitting on our morals. We're never sitting back saying, okay, we did really good that year. The question always becomes is, how do we get better? How do we do it more efficiently, more effective? Mm-hmm. So I am, and I think I have to be, a pure representation of what we're trying to get our clients to build.
True. You have to walk the talk.
Yeah.
Now, in your own life and in your business, what is the one online resource, tool, website, or an app that you couldn't absolutely live without in your day-to-day operations?
I would say there's maybe 3. One is ours. It's an app that we have that I use for managing my behavior. It's called an accountability app. So once you have your plan and your action steps, it tracks it every day, and you can't hide from it. So I find that fantastic. Mm-hmm. The 2 other apps that I use, one is because I travel, so it's called Flight Tracker, and I find it very, 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 very effective because, again, I travel. The third app, which I think is phenomenal, it's transformed itself. It used to be a service where they would read your emails to you back way, way, way before we had even cell phones. So it's called Copy Talk, and Copy Talk transformed itself into a dictation service. So every time I'm on the phone with somebody, it could be a prospecting call, it could be a client call, it could be a service call, it could be a training meeting, everyone. I do a copy talk, and a copy talk is I transfer my memory from my head to my mouth, and they transfer it from my mouth to typed. So at the end of the day, I will get 10 or 15 or 20 emails from Copy Talk on all my summaries of everything I did there in a day.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Is it that the Copy Talk records your conversation? No? It's
a dictation service, yes.
Ah.
Mm-hmm. So, for instance, if I turn around and say to someone during a quick call, that sounds like a good idea, let me send you that slide deck, or that's great, let me put that book into the mail for you. Well, if I hang up and I jump from there right into another call, that goes on my to-do list. Those to-do lists get big pretty fast.
Amazing.
So what I found is works best for me for follow-up, for efficiency and effectiveness, is not relying on my memory. Mm-hmm. It's a deadly, deadly thing.
Yes.
And I have a large staff. So when I copy talk, I actually tell people in my staff, I need you to do this, or can you do that, or make sure that gets to so-and-so. So now they have a memory jogger too, and it gets transferred over to to-do lists. We have found it one of the best ways to internally communicate within the team on where we are with progress and status, etc. So I really like the Copy Talk. Yep. Love
it. Okay. Now, Glenn, what are some of the books that have had the biggest impact on you?
I would say that probably the couple that had the biggest one was The Formula for Success by Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. I think it was a fantastic book. The other one that I found to be quite useful, but it's my background, so most of your listeners may find it very boring, but I'm a big proponent of Eric Berne. He's a psychologist that transformed or created something called transactional analysis. And it's a theory that says all of us have 3 different ego states in us. So child, adult, and a parent. We have to talk to each of them independently. So if someone comes to us and they're very angry at a customer situation, that's their 4-year-old inside of them who's angry. So you need to hear the 4-year-old, but you need to fix the adult, because the adult is the one that's going to tell everybody about it. If you try to fix the adult without talking to the child, we're never going to get to the true emotional bonding part.
Wow.
So I found that book to be amazingly powerful in understanding human nature.
Wow. What did you say it was called? Transactional analysis?
Transactional analysis. Yep. The third book I would say that was fantastic is, again, it's more our book. It's a Sandler book. It's called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. And what it's basically saying is, if you really do want to expand, if you do really want to get great at your profession, you're not going to figure this thing out in a one-day seminar.
True.
Right? So it does take time and energy. So I found that book for me, as you read in my bio, I had a lot of problems when I first got started. I had a lot of head trash, I had a lot of anxiety, I had a lot of fears, I had a lot of issues about people thinking that I was a salesperson versus an account rep or versus a service person. It's always safer, nicer. But what I found is that once I started working on my beliefs, my fears, my anxieties, my scripts, and then understanding how to put plans together, understanding that the majority of people don't in the world do that, and those that do all are really more successful than I was. So why would I buck the system? So I just kind of became a product of our own process, and it, knock on wood, worked.
Amazing. Really good. All right. So for those of our listeners listening, we can find those books that Glenn has mentioned on Amazon, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Now, Glenn, what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
One of the things that we're doing right now is we're spending a lot of time and energy into distant learning. And that's helping individuals all around the world and learn versus just having me present face-to-face. So one of the exciting things is how we can really maximize technology today and how we can help more people around the country versus only helping those that I get face-to-face in, or they go to get a chance to go to a convention. Same thing you're doing, right? You're expanding your horizon in a much different way.
True. Amazing. And they can find you online to connect with what you're doing on a global level through what apps or what websites?
Sure. You can go to I have a website it's my last name at Sandler.com, which is MATTSON.Sandler, SANDLER.com.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch of books in there, white papers, an enormous amount of inventory that they're more than welcome to take a look at. And a lot of things you can download for free. And obviously you can find me on LinkedIn too.
Very cool. Now, before we wrap the interview up, one of the things that we like to ask our guests is, do you have a quote or saying that in times of adversity or extreme challenges, when you remind yourself of that quote, it kind of helps you to center your energy and refocus?
It's interesting. I have one that I think maybe it's mine, right? So it's not unique. It's been around for a long time. The quote I like is, today I will do what others won't. So tomorrow I can do what others want, but can't.
Nice. Very simple, but extremely effective.
Right. In other words, is do what most won't do to have a life that most want.
True. That is true. Which goes right back to when we started, that it requires great tolerance, patience. It's not about the destination, but more about the journey, right?
It is. And everyone who's listening in, especially if they're starting a business or thinking about starting a business, one of the beautiful things about businesses is that you can start one. You just need to really do your due diligence, find out about your product, find out about your plan, find out about your finances, do as much due diligence as you can, and do the best you can to take you and have you be number 2 or 3. Your clients are number 1, your customers, your staff should be number 2, and then you're number 3 or 4. Yes. So if you remember that, it makes building businesses a little easier.
Amazing. Great. Well, thank you so much, Glenn, for taking time today and sharing with our audience all of your knowledge and your experience and your journey in terms of helping people to understand the value and importance of customer experience. And if our guests and our listeners would like to connect with you further, they can hop on over through your website. All of the information that Glenn shared with us, especially the ones that will connect you to a tool or an app or a book that he shared, will be in the show notes of this episode. So I would like to thank you again and remind our listeners that they can connect with us on our Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community, or follow us at Navigating CX on Twitter. So until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We really appreciate your support of this podcast. Are you ready to grow your business even more? Or improve your leadership skills? Or train your team members in the art of customer service? Give us a call at 305-848-0815 or visit our website at www.yannickgrant.com. That's YANIQUEGRANT.com. Remember, 305-848-0815 or visit our website at yannickgrant.com. Our new online course, Mastering Customer Experience and Increasing Your Revenue, is now available. The link for this will be on the show notes of each episode starting September 7, 2016. The first 2 modules are free, so hop on over, have a look, and take the steps to increase your revenue.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.